everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy King Jester, and today we're here with an interesting style video. We're going to be covering a couple space facts for what's going on in 2023 with like NASA and all the space missions and such. So let's go ahead and see what we got going on today. Alright, so today's story that we're going to be looking at is the first Artemis spacesuit to be worn on the moon will not be returned to Earth. You guys, this is probably something that's one of my more favorite interesting stories of the couple that we're going to look at today, just for the fact that that's the spacesuit right there. And I'll just go ahead and read this for you. The history-making spacesuit worn by the first woman and the next American astronaut to walk on the moon will be abandoned on a SpaceX lunar lander rather than be returned to Earth for their reuse or a museum display. Axiom Space, the Houston-based space service company selected by NASA to design, build, and furnish the spacesuit for the 2025 Artemis 3 lunar landing mission, unveiled a prototype of its lunar garb during a press event at Space Center Houston on Wednesday, March 15th. Axiom President and CEO Michael Safredi, sorry, I'm going to butcher names, I'm horrible, and Mark Greeley, the company's program manager of extravehicular activity, that's a mouthful, spoke about the fate of the Artemis 3 spacesuit in a brief interview. This will go up on Starship, and then the crew will transfer over from Orion to Starship to go down to the lunar surface. Greeley told CollectSpace.com, referring to how the two garments would first get to the moon. And so that just means that the first woman that's going to step foot on the moon, her spacesuit will be left up there as like a token of showing that, you know, we did it. This is our first time on the moon. It's like how they put the flag on the moon at the very first time that they went. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought it was pretty interesting, the fact that they wouldn't return it to Earth, just for the fact that, you know, we have quite a few museums. I mean, I could see why they'd want to leave it up there, just so that way, you know, it's a little piece of history that's marked where it should be, you know. But I think that's pretty cool. Alright guys, so this next one, I'm not even pre-reading these. I'm just going based off of the title of the article, and I'm going through them, and I'm leaving just kind of like but the title sounds interesting, especially this one. This one says, faint gravitational waves may be from primordial fracture in space-time. And for me, space-time's one of those things where, you know, you always hear about it in like the superhero movies, and you know, like you get to see it in the video games, movies, anime, stuff like that. You see it everywhere, and this, the one rule is you never mess with space-time, you know. So if there's a fracture in space-time, something may be up, you know what I mean? Alright, so it says, the early universe may have been such a violent place that space-time itself fractured like a pane of glass. Those fractures would have released floods of gravitational waves, and a team of astronomers have discovered that we may have already detected the ripples in the fabrics of space-time. Now, space-time, like that's everything in the universe. That is literally the whole structure of our existence. The team who reported their results recently in a paper submitted for a publication in the Journal of Computational Astrophysics and published on arxiv.org. I can't even say that. Claim that they have seen evidence from so-called domain walls in the early universe. When our universe was incredibly young, it was also incredibly exotic. The four forces of nature were bound up in a single unified force. We do not know what the force looked like, how it operated. Well, we know that the universe cooled and expanded, unified force fracture into four familiar forces we have today. First came gravity, then the strong nuclear force splintered off, and lastly, the electromagnetic and weak nuclear forces split from each other. Which of these splittings completely remodeled itself? New particles aroused to replace ones that could exist only in extreme conditions. Previously, the fundamentals of quantum fields of space-time that dictate how particles and forces interact with each other reconfigure themselves. So we don't know how smoothly or roughly these phase transitions looked, or transitions took place, but it's perfectly possible that with each splitting, the universe settled in multiple identities at once. This fracture isn't as exotic as it sounds. It happens with all kinds of phase transitions, like water turning into ice. Different patches of water can form ice molecules with different orientations. No matter what the water turns into ice, but different domains can have different molecular arrangements where those domains meet walls or imperfections. Fractures or fracturing will appear. So, okay, let's scroll down. Let's keep going down. Probing the gut. Physics are especially interesting in so-called gut phase transition for our universe. GUT is short for Grand Unified Theory, a hypothetical model of physics that merges the strong nuclear force with electromagnetism and the weak nuclear force. These theories are just beyond the reach of current experiments, so physicists and astronomers turn to the conditions of the early universe to study the important transitions. The gut phase transition, which occurs when the universe was the barest fraction of a second old, may very well have left behind domain walls, a network of boundaries between different configurations of space-time. These defects could not have lasted long, however, if they persisted for a few seconds or even minutes. Their intense energies would have thrown off the progress of nucleosis, which gave rise to all the primordial hydrogen and helium in the universe, or distorted images of the cosmic microwave background, CMB for short, that leftover radiation from the Big Bang. So, right there, that's saying that without the defects, we probably wouldn't lasted long. We needed these, what was the word that they used? Defects. We needed these defects in order to get the hydrogen and helium in the early universes. Otherwise, and then that was left over from the Big Bang, which means that all it is that it's the molecules and energies over time. It's evolving. It's evolution. It's these molecules and all this the elements out in space. They're evolving over time, at least from what I'm understanding. I am no astrophysicist or anything like that. I just absolutely love space, and I'd love to be an astrophysicist, learn and take the steps to do that. But I'm sitting here reading these articles, giving my opinion, so hopefully no hard feelings. So let's get back to the article. So in this interconnected state of domain walls had to decay in the other particles, either normal particles like electrons or quarks, or more exotic particles like some form of dark matter. Either way, the decay process, coupled with the undulating motion of domain walls themselves, could have released a flood of gravitational waves that could persist to the present day universe. And it's got a little display right here. There's the afterglow right here, look. So it goes afterglow light pattern 400,000 years, inflation, quantum fluctuations, the first star about 400 million years in the expansion of the Big Bang, which is 13.7 billion years, and then wham. Alright, let's see how long, we're just about done with this article. Surveying the domain. The gravitational waves would be incredibly weak and impossible to detect with existing ground-based gravitational wave facilities. But for over a decade, several teams of astronomers around the world have instead been looking to pulsars to map gravitational universe waves. Sorry, my brain just stopped working there for a minute. Let's go back up. We're going to go back up to But for over a decade, several teams of astronomers around the world have instead been looking to pulsars to map gravitational waves sloshing through the universe. Pulsars are incredibly precise, timekeeping objects, able to maintain the rhythm down to less than a millionth of a second, If a gravitational wave passes between us a set of pulsars, however, that will subtly affect the period of pulsation by studying large numbers of pulsars for long periods of time. We can hope to find signals of a background frothing of gravitational waves. These pulsar timing arrays, like the Nangarav experiment, the European Pulsar Timing Array, have already found hints of a signal. Most astronomers believe that the signal is due to the combined actions of millions of supermassive black holes colliding with each other over billions of years. But the new study presents a different picture. The team argues that the signals also could be explained by domain walls decaying in the early universe. Their modules allow for the domain walls to decay fast enough to not violate other observations, like the CMB, while still providing a strong enough signal to explain the pulsar timing array data. Because the signals in the data are very faint and not confirmed to come from any particular source, there's room for the kind of radical proposal. The team argues that the future pulsar timing measurements should be able to distinguish their module decay domain walls from the traditional picture of colliding supermassive black holes. Also, if their model is accurate, the domain walls should decay into either normal or exotic particles. Either way, that should be detectable with future, much more sensitive CMB measurements. If the results hold up, it'll be a major win for the physics, the first time we've discovered concrete evidence for gut phase transition and the beginning of a new understanding of physics. Well, it sounds like we got a lot more information now to work with. It sounds like stuff that they knew before is now actually changed. Like I said earlier, evolution is a thing, and it seems like over time everything's evolving in the what were they called? They were called decay walls, right? Decay walls, I believe it was. Well, every compound breaks down over time, and so I think that we'll see a whole lot more of this here soon. But you know, in over time, of course, black holes may collide because they're sucking up everything in the universe. And isn't it, you know, when one becomes so big, the other one, you know, when one's power outpowers the other, can't it just swallow it up just for its own mass? And you know, it would like combine or something like that. I have no idea. I just wanted to share a couple articles that I thought were really interesting. The spacesuit and the ripples in space-time. So if you guys like this, please go ahead, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new for more awesome content like this. Again, it's your boy King Jester. Have a fantastic day. Stay classy. Bye-bye.